Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial with Holty. Today we are going to look at putting in the sprint function using a small system that I kind of stumbled across on when messing about with things. The standard way of editing your speed in game is to change the variable movement speed and just upping it when you're sprinting, moving at a faster speed and putting it back down again. Now, I tried this. I had this in my project for quite a while and was getting slight jitters on the client movement. Depending on ping is depending on how bad it got. So anything above sort of like a 40 or 50 ping in game, it was really, really noticeable and really horrible to play with. Tried lots of things, couldn't quite get it working. So I played around and come up with this new system that seems to have worked pretty well. I mean, even anything up to about a 200 ping at the moment seems to be really smooth still. So I'll show you, walk you through that and show you through. So let's get started. Let's first of all go back into our filtered here. Let's go back into our blueprint logic and open up player character. Now this system is going to use our input graph. A second. What we're going to do is we are going to play around with our axes and we're going to constantly compute our axes. We're going to edit them depending on whether we're running or whether we're jogging, etc., etc. So the first thing we need to do is edit our character movement node. So we want to set our standard character movement, the speed, at the maximum speed we want. So let's say, for instance, our maximum speed we want to run is at 600. We want to set that at 600. So if we come down, walking, we're already set 600. So what we're going to do is going to set that to 8 to increase it slightly. Pile, save that. Holty, just let everyone know you are there.
Hello.
There you go.
Nope.
He is there this time. I'm not going to be talking to myself the whole video.
I'll just edit it out so he looks like he still is.
Okay. So we've set our character movement. Let's go back. Sorry. And just in an empty space, we'll want to set up our sprint function, which is going to be standard normal games on the shift. Set up an action input key for that. Let's go back to your main browser. Settings.
Before Chaos does anything else, I'm just going to quickly pause. Okay, and we're back.
So, go to your project settings. You want to come down to input. Let's go to action settings and let's just add another one. Going to rename this to sprint. And we're going to set this to shift, left shift. And once that's done, you can close that. Let's open back up our player character. And now we can input our sprint action mapping key. Now, on this particular key, really, the only thing that we need to do is set a variable. And we need to just set it on or off. The only difference is with this is that we need to let the server know that we're sprinting or we're not sprinting. And this is purely because you're going to want to set up some stuff in the animation graph and stuff like that, which then needs to be replicated. So we need to set up something slightly different here, which I'm going to go through now. So let's first of all put in your new is sprinting variable, and we're going to set that to replicated. On the action input, we want to drag off on our press, and we want to do switch has authority. So for people that don't know, this particular node here basically just asks the client itself or the instance of UE whether we are the server or whether we're a remote connection. So first of all, we want to set our sprinting variable to true if we are the authority. If we're the remote and we're the client, we want the server to set the sprinting variable for us. Quick and easy way to do this is if we set up a custom event, and we're going to call this server is sprinting. Now on the details panel of that, we want to set on run on server, and we always want it to be reliable. As far as I'm aware, this particular field here that we tick reliable, it ensures that if the server or the traffic on the server ever becomes really congested, it prioritizes this function being transmitted, and stuff that isn't reliable gets pushed back into a queue and will eventually go through. So sprinting is a pretty big thing in a game. We always want to be able to sprint, and if it is really congested, we always want it to get there every time. So we want to really keep that as reliable. So now we've set that up. If we're the client, we want to ask the server to set that variable for us. So easy enough, drag off there, and we just type in our custom event server is sprinting. So that's if we push it. Now all we want to do is recreate this, but just reverse it, basically. So we want to put switch, if I can spell today, has authority. Let's just bring that down there. We want to set it to false. Set up our custom event. And server not is sprinting. Set that to run on server, reliable. There we go, and drag this one out. And we want to get our server not is sprinting. There. So, pretty simple setup on this. As we've explained, push the button, it sets it, release it, it releases it. Pretty straightforward. We just put a little comment around that. Just put sprinting function. Easy enough. Let's just grab that. Just drag that over there for now. Okay, so let's get back to our movement handling. What we initially want to do is start setting up the function and storing our axis values. So I'm going to explain this as I go along, purely because it can seem a little bit complicated to look at, but I think once I go through the process and show you exactly how it works, it should be pretty simple to follow. So let's just drag this right out, and we want to drag this right out as well. Don't really want to mess around with the mobile stuff right now. You can do if you're looking to go on mobile. You can just sort of hook it back up. That's completely up to you. But I don't really bother.
Don't think I actually know anyone making a mobile game.
No, not that's actually using generic shooter as a template to work off of or to build on. But if you are, you just hook it up the same as we're going to do here. So what we want to do is we want to grab these axis values. Your axis values, again, like your inputs, they run from a -1 to a 1 Pretty simple. So what we want to do is want to store these values first of all. So what we want to do is just drag out there, promote that to a variable, and we're going to name that move. Oh, move forward. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set that move forward there. The same on your move right. We're going to promote that to a variable, and we're going to change that to move. We'll just keep it the same. Move right. Now, there was a issue I had when I passed this straight through to our custom function, which we're going to make in a minute. It worked, but it was very, very temperamental. So for now, we're just going to set those up as they are, and we're going to create a custom event. Add a custom event here, and we're going to put custom move forward. Leave that there for a second. Tell you what, I'm just going to move these. Just trying to think the best way to organize this slightly. Well, let's just delete these because we don't actually need these right this second. I'm going to move this off down here. So just trying to keep it organized so you can easily follow what's happening on screen. There we go. All right. And let's get another custom event over here, and we're going to call that custom move right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug those back into our original move forward input and our move forward input. Off of here, we want to get our new custom functions, and we're going to do server, what am I talking about? Custom, going to do our custom move right, so that plugs into there nicely. And our custom move forward, and plug that into there. Sorry, I am trying to keep this as best as I can. So straight away off our axis inputs, I move forward. We're going to set our axis value, the default value that's coming from your mouse, from your input, sorry, your WASD buttons, your forward, back, left, right. And we're storing them in the variable and running our custom function. Our custom function, which we just created, is currently plugged into our add movement. So that's our movement values there. So our next step, what we want to do is actually want to work on our custom function, which is going to be our computed speed. So let's start off by creating a function. Add a new function.
What we should have said at the start of this tutorial is you need Iron Belly's weapons for the weapon sway.
This is going to tie in for the Iron Belly weapon sway. It's not necessary. It's not 100%. You need this to create a custom run function. It's just another added little extra. If you're using a weapon or a set of animations that's got custom sprint animations, then I'll show you later on in the video how to set that up as well. Okay, so we've created our new function, and the first thing we want to do is we want to get that default axis values into our function. The easiest way to do this is if we go into our input graph. Okay, we are going to move those out slightly. Just drag back off of here, sorry, I forgot to do this, and we're going to put our custom function in there first. Let's just move this out of the way. bring that there. Now in here, we're going to add 2 new inputs. And we're going to name them move forward, move right. And we're going to change those to floats. Just compile that, just so it updates the input graph. There we go. And our input graph there. You'll now see on our compute speeds, it's got the 2 new inputs now. So you move forward and you'll move right speed. Now what we want to do is come down to the values we've got and go move forward and move right. And again on this function here, we're just going to put in our move forward and move right. Now, you're probably asking, why am I running this function twice and why am I putting the same value in twice? Now, you could create 2 functions that computes your forward movement and another function that computes your left and right speed. Very possible. I found it easy just to put it in one, but it's up to you guys what you do. But for the purpose of this, just following what I've done previously, and it seems to work perfectly fine. So I just keep it all in one function, just keep it all together. So plugging those values in, let's get cracking on our function now. Sound like we're boring you, mate.
Sorry, I just went really tired.
Okay, so this takes a little bit of playing around with, depending on how fast you want your jog speed to go, your normal run speed, and how fast you want your sprint speed to go. So I always set up the jog speed first. That's a really, really simple process. All we need to do is we need to clamp them, clamp the variables as we go. So what we want to do is we want to create 2 new floats. Let's just create those. So, and we're going to call them adjusted forward. So what the value is going to be coming out the other side when we adjust them. I'm going to change that to a float, and we want that to be replicated. Create another one. Adjusted right. And again, we want that to be a float, and we want that to be replicated. So we just got those already sitting there. So the first thing we want to do, when we're not doing anything, we're just moving around as per normal, we're just running around, we want to set that. So let's first of all start off, just to get the values right, we're going to do this first. Start off with this, and we are going to set a clamp float. And the same on this one, we're going to set a clamp float. So as you can see here, these clamps, they just clamp the float, the input float, and they clamp it to whatever you set your minimum and maximum to be. Now, if we leave this at 0 and 1, we're always going to run round at 800, which we set our movement speed to earlier on. We don't want that because we want our 800 to be our sprint speed, or you can change it later on. So really, what we want to do is we want to set this to a, let's try minus 0.5. Let's just cut it in half for the point of, for the purpose of the tutorial. And we want to go minus 0.5 to 0.5. Now what we're going to do is bring out our adjusted forward, and we want to set it. Grab that into there, and set our adjusted right, and we want to set that, and that's it. Compile.
It's thinking
save
about
that. Yeah. Okay, now back on our input graph. It's really just a case now of popping those variables in. So as I say, I'm not bothering with the mobile movement input. Obviously, you can just duplicate this for the mobile input. That's completely up to you, but we're just going to leave that alone for now. Just going to grab our forward, plug that straight into there, And we're going to grab our right and plug that straight into there. So if Halty does the honors, we're just going to judge our normal run speed.
Alright guys, sorry about that. We had a bit of a spaz there. So we're just getting to resume play.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So yeah, we're just going to test, make sure it's actually limited it. Okay, that doesn't look too sad at all. Okay, so we know it's working. The system initially is working. It is grabbing it, running our function, we're computing our speed, and it's using our adjusted forward. So let's go back into our function in here. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to disconnect those for a second. I'm going to drag those out of the way there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to check if we're sprinting. So let's just grab a branch off of there, and we'll grab our is sprinting variable, and we are going to put it in there. And first of all, we're going to say if we're not sprinting, we want to keep the values at that. If we are, we're just going to duplicate these, drag these up here, and we're going to plug those into there. Oh, if I get it right, and drag that one into there. Make this a little bit neater. And then up into there. And then what we're going to do is I'll move forward. You don't necessarily sprint backwards, which is something that you can combat on your own. You can disable it if you're moving backwards, and etc. etc. But I'm just gonna set this to 0 as a minimum, and we're gonna set that as a maximum. Personally, I keep this the same, if not make it lower on the left and right, because realistically, I don't think you sprint at full speed left and right. So I'm going to keep this on your left and right the same as your normal run left and right as well. So we just increase this value here. And copy those, and we're going to paste those. Oh, just going to bring that down slightly. And we're going to bring our forward into there, and our right over to there. And I'm going to bring our true there. So quite an easy system at the minute. Obviously, you can expand this as much as you want, add as many different functions as you want. I personally set up another function that when you aim down sight, you walk a lot slower. So it goes into a really slow walk, as opposed to just walking normally and et cetera, et cetera. But you're welcome to expand on that as much as you like. So really easy. First of all, we're going to ask if we're sprinting. If we're not, we are normally running. And if we are sprinting, we're going to adjust our speed there. So let's just compile and save that, and double check that we actually move faster now when Halty holds the sprint key.
5,
Oh, which of truth.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, definitely going faster there.
So we are moving faster. If you do that in a third person, obviously everything's going to look the same. You're just going to move faster. Brilliant. Okay, so let's say it's completely up to you. You can test that, change the values as much as you like, and add and take away as much as you like as well. But that's the basic setup of that particular sprint function. So a really nice, easy function to add in. Now, as an additional to having that sprint function in, if you've already followed the Iron Belly stuff, and now you're looking at the sprint, as you know, we have a sprint animation in there. So I might as well show you how to put that into the anim graph as well. Just real nice and quick. So let's have a look at our content browser. Let's go down to our characters, go into our common. animations. Let's go back into our ABP player arms. So we've got our walking, which is our normal poses, which we set up last time. And now we want to do is we want to add a sprinting function in. So first thing we want to do is we're actually going to get that variable from here. Now, as you can see, with the way that this is currently set up, we would have to set it on after both of these if we was going to follow this line. So what we're actually going to do now is we're going to move this and we're going to set up a sequence and just chop this up a little bit, just make it a little bit better, and just to ensure that everything fires all the time as we need to. So let's just push these along over to here. Now, after you've casted to your player character, I'm going to drag off there again and just start typing in sequence until we get this node here. This enables us to fire off constantly all the different stuff that we need. So let's just add a pin because we're firing off a couple of stuff. I'm going to drag one down. No, we'll leave that to last. Sorry, we'll drag number 2 on there just to keep it a little bit neater. I'll grab another pin off there. Now, off of here, we're going to get is sprinting. Oh, grab that there. Organize this as much as you like. And obviously, as we learned from last time, you need to set your local variable in your animation blueprint. So we're just going to create another one, and we're going to name it the same, and we're going to call that is sprinting. We are going to set that, and plug that into there, and plug that into there. So at all 3 times, it's going to fire. It's going to get your normal data, which is your enums and your ADS position. It's going to set whether you're sprinting, and we've already got set up, are we walking? So let's go back into here. Now in here, pretty much the same as what we did before. I'm going to copy that node and we're going to paste it in there. But instead, we're going to delete that. And we're going to grab our sprinting, plug that into there. Now we want to move this back one and plug that into there. If we're not sprinting, obviously we want to run our normal walking animations, which runs all our idles and when we're moving, which we set up last time. And only when we sprint do we want to change our animation. So just to keep things nice and easy, I'm going to copy that one, just so we don't have to pull it all out again and wire it all up again and blah, blah, blah. And again, we don't have anything for our standard pistol and our standard rifle. All we want to be changing is the AK. So let's just have a look in here. Let's drag this out a little bit more. Scroll to the bottom, there should be a sprint. So I'll drag that in and drag that onto there. So really simple setup. So as soon as we're sprinting, it's going to change. So let's just compile that. Let's just try that in the editor here. So let's change to our AK. And we're going to go to walking. You see it moves it nice and slowly. And then if we go into our sprinting, we go into our sprinting pose. Not sprinting, into the walking, not walking, back into our idle. Awesome. That works just the way we intended it. So if we go into play
5
and Holty takes over,
3
we should get our idle,
2
we should get our normal
1.
walk, and then once he starts sprinting, we should see the sprinting animation as well. There we go. Just gives it that more of a feel, that better feel. See, this is a slight issue. I'm glad that he made this, so we can just fix that real simple. Okay, let's go back into. Oh, My mistake. Content browser. Let's open up this again.
So many people are going to pause now just to look at my specs.
They're not brilliant. Don't worry, they're not brilliant.
Yeah, don't even bother. Actually, check it, then go to the crowdfund.
Easy way. We can set up this again. We can just copy this branch. So all we're going to do is say, if we're not moving, we're going to make sure that we set this sprinting to null, and if we are moving, then we're going to set it to. Well, I suppose you could do this two ways. You can either use the vector length, get your character movement. If you're moving over a certain speed, you can allow a sprint, or you can run a branch on your walking. So if we set the walking first, change this to pin 1, and then we ask the system, hang on, if we're already walking, which means we must be moving, then we can go ahead and set the sprint. And if we're not, then we won't set the sprint. So it's completely up to you how you do it. But for now, just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to set up another branch here. And I'm going to bring in that condition there. And we're going to set our sprinting to null. Now, obviously, we don't want to plug in this, because all we want to do is turn it false, because we're going to push the button. It's going to set this to true. And if we're not moving, then we obviously don't want to set it. You can also do it in the character blueprint as well.
5, 4.
This is one way of
3,
doing it. There are
2,
many ways of countering
1.
that, but this is just a really easy way of doing it. Are you pushing? Are you trying to sprint backwards? Holly, talk.
Sorry, I had the mic muted because I was coughing. Yeah.
What is?
Moving
What
backwards.
is? Okay. Just had a little thought there that it posed a little problem when trying to sprint backwards. The reason why it was kind of messing out a little bit is because we set the backwards on the custom animation. Let's just talk you through this. Let's go back into our blueprint logic. Let's open up our player character. Now, if you remember here, we set this to 0. Now, you will get a tiny little bit of movement when you try and run backwards. Again, this is game dependent on whether you want anyone to move backwards while they're pushing sprint. You can disable that. That's completely up to you. I'm just going to put this at -1. Sorry, yeah, 0. -1. So we get a little bit of movement backwards. Slightly better way that I just thought of countering this. What we can do, so we can just get rid of this branch and rid of this. What we can do is run an AND function on here. So what we're going to say is we're only going to set this to true if we're pushing the button sprinting, and if we are equal or greater to moving 200. So 200's probably, at the moment, it should be between our run. Our run should be sitting at around the 400, purely because we set it at half of our 800. So it should be any more than 200. We are definitely moving forward. So yeah, we're going to check our vector length on our character movement. As long as it's 200 and we are sprinting, we're going to set this to true. And if we're not, it's going to set to false. So let's give that a quick try and see if that fixes
5,
that.
4, 3, 2, 1.
So as you can see, the backwards movement is really limited when we push our sprint. Again, that's completely up to you on how you guys code that in. just for the purpose of the tutorial, we're just going to do that.
Looking good.
So not too bad. Again, you can sprint left and right. That is something you can counteract if you want. Just setting a few variables and a few restrictions on the if you're not moving forward and you push A or move left and right and you're using the sprint at the same time, disable it. So only when you're moving forward can you move left and right and sprint. That again, that's completely up to you how you want to code that in. But that's your basic sprint function with your clamping, which is a lot smoother for clients, especially on a higher ping over the internet with the Iron Belly animation. There are ways, obviously you're probably thinking, well, what about my third person? Because, you know, he looks the same. Doesn't matter whether he runs or walks or whatever, he looks the same. That depends on custom animation. I would show you, but as far as I'm aware, and I may be wrong, let's just have a quick look. As far as I'm aware, there's only a jog and not an actual run animation that gets applied with the default. Yeah, there is. There is a way around this. But we're going to stop the video here. I'm just going to try something after the video. And if it works and is a workaround for your third person stuff on a sprint as well, we'll do another quick tutorial that'll follow on for this. It'll be a part 2. But any questions, let me know. It's not been the best tutorial, but I hope you can follow it. Hope you can get the gist of it. Any issues or any questions, let us know on Slack. Cheers, guys.
Also, guys, quickly before we go, comments are going to be disabled. If you need help, shoot the box.
Okay, so just tried a little workaround for someone that want to do like a small prototype and they want to see a visual difference in the sprint and your normal run through the third person. There's a little something we can do. We can add in before you get all your custom animations and whatnot that you'll change out afterwards. So if we go back into our content browser, let's go generic shooter, characters, UE4, common, animations, 3P. What we need to do, I've already done it here, but we want to find our rifle jog forward. And you just want to duplicate that. So we duplicate it and rename it to our A rifle sprint, which is there. Once you've done that, just open it up. Real simple way and just a little hacky way of getting this to work. All we're going to do is on the left side panel here, we've got our rate scale, which changes the rate on which the animation plays. You can see it's going really slow motion there. Whoa. And really, really fast there. Obviously, our normal rate scale is 1. For our sprinting, all we're going to do is we're just going to up this a little bit. I'm going to try and mine 1.3, just so you can see a real visual difference there on it going. There we go. So what we're going to do is click and save that. Now, keeping this open, scroll right down to the bottom and find our BS jog, which this is our jog. What controls, what speed, what direction we're going depends on the animations it's playing. Now, 270 is fine for our normal jog speed, but obviously, you noticed earlier on, we changed our normal run speed to 800. So let's just change this to 800, which will be our max speed. You can see it throws up some errors here. Really easy fix. Let's just drag these all up here and get this back to normal again. Again, once you get all your own custom animations and whatnot, I'm pretty sure you probably would have already played around with this. If not, it's going to be something you're going to do later on. But so we have a sprint already, Holty.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Did we miss it?
We must have.
We did. We missed it. Okay, we have a sprint already. So after, delete this hacky rifle sprint forward and use a rifle sprint forward. Click it and drag it in. Now we don't have a sprint left and right, so we're just going to use the sprint forward again. on our left and right. So when he's sprinting forward or left and right, he's going there. The only other thing you want to remember is we want to bring in our backwards and just mirror the edges there. So look for your jog backwards and make sure you drag those up in the corner. So we're going to go up, turn and we'll jog. As soon as we get into our sprint, we're going to go full sprint. Easy peasy. Let's give that a go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There we go. So, all working. You can now go back and delete that
That one there,
sprint.
wasn't it?
That's the one. How did we not spot that one there? I do not know. There you go. Yes, good thinking. The only thing you want to do, there's going to be no footsteps because we need to add our anim notifiers. So all you want to do is, Holly, can you view the back so we can just tell our left and right without getting confused? There's 2 anim notifiers that set up standard on generic shooter. You've got your left foot and your right foot. So all you want to do is go through. I missed the first one out just in case. All you want to do is go and see where the foot hits. How precise you are is completely up to you. So we know we've got our right foot. Right click on this timeline here, add notify, footstep right. And that's it. Keep going along. And once his left foot hits about there, oh, too far. About there, let's say. Let's go and add our left foot. And again on our right foot, about there, roughly. Obviously, you can be a bit more precise than I am. And just before it ends, we want to get right at the very end here, we want to add our left foot again. So I can't hear any sound through TeamViewer, but if Holty tests it for us in game, you should now hear some footsteps
5,
on the sprint.
4, 3, 2, 1.
All working, Holty?
Yeah, all working nicely.
Very good. So there you go. Your sprint function we've set up in the previous video. All your first person animation stuff. And now your third person animation stuff. All done.
And the words of Allah,
Bang. Bang.
Nope. Nope.
remember the box.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. If you need anything else, or you can think of any other tutorials that we could make it a bit easier for everyone, and if we know how to do it, then give us a shout and let us know. Cheers.
Layla's everyone.